Hello there, welcome back to the final video I'm doing. This time it's the top 10 morally reprehensible 80s movies. It's a list one. So I'm just going to. I'll go from 10 to 1, but it's in no real order. But. And as you'll figure out, some of this is not very serious. Because some of these are films that I find morally reprehensible. There's other ones that people found that way that I really enjoy. So I'm trying to kind of keep it kind of if I other times found it that way, I can put it in the list. So and you'll also find that some of my reasons for it for certain films are utterly petty. Like seriously petty. So I hope you enjoy that. So first of all, number 10 is Body Double, which is a Brian De Palma film from '84 that he got just destroyed for, just utterly destroyed for. This is a follow up to it just in a come off a run of Dress to Kill, Blowout, and Scarface. So three iconic films from the '80s. Then he made this one and get clobbered critically and didn't really come back until The Untouchables. But it's a film that's done a lot better on repeat viewings and is better known now than it was at the time and better respected now at the time. Like, even I'm a De Palma fan, and even I didn't like this film that much when I first saw it, and I thought it was a bit of a missed opportunity. But as you look back on it, I mean, there's so much of it that's intentionally cheesy and knowing, like, of course you're going to react this way to it. The director knew you're going to react this way to it because it was intentional. But the thing that kind of there's certain things that get people on a uproar of this film. One, it's about the porn industry, and it's the porn industry of the '80s of LA, and De Palma does it in a satirical, over the top way that mirrors the film industry itself because starts off with scenes in the film industry which are horror movies, and then he goes to the porn industry and it's not that much different. It's cutthroat, it's horrible, and he's just more or less joking that this is what the industry is like, not just the adult industry. So there's that element, plus there's nudity, which a lot of the prudes in the 80s hated. So there was that element. There's a creepy leading character who's not sympathetic. Craig Wasson plays a guy, and it's probably the weakest performance in the film, but you get a sense of De Palma knew what he was doing. Like, this was a stiff leading man character, repressed character. I'm sure he wanted him to be more sympathetic than he actually turned out to be, but he's a character that really annoys, which again makes it interesting. You have a character who you can't get fully behind because of the performance, but also because of the way it's written, because he's playing this guy who is he's a sleazy, wimpy actor who is claustrophobic, who's been cheated on by his girlfriend, who gets duped by this obvious villain into being a patsy for murder mystery. So the film is thrown on the sleeves, thrown on the satire and sarcasm for a character you probably won't like, and also had one of the most gratuitous murders in the middle of the film, where after showing this woman who you've been following for ages, she's murdered by a drill halfway through the film, and the drill, it's a long sequence and it's pretty brutal. But you don't see that much, but it's left to my imagination a lot, and you see enough for it to feel pretty callous. And again, it's all about bad taste and good taste, and you were interested in this woman watching her strip, but now suddenly she's been killed and you're offended. But it's some of the kind of it kind of implicates the idea that you are a peeper and you're into all sorts of things, and maybe your desires aren't as healthy as you think and or as mainstream as you think. So De Palma did a lot of things in this film that annoyed people. He was really winding people up. So that's why I don't think it's reprehensible. But a lot of people did at the time, so that's why it's on the list, but very high, very much a 10, because it's one of those ones that's this is more an 80s one than me. Number 9's Top Gun, which again was a a film that is tricky because it's a lot of people love it, right? And the jokey response is, "I'm putting it on this list because there's not enough rampant homoeroticism for the film." That's my joke answer. But because it's so pro-military, in a way that the sequel wasn't. The sequel was much more like, "This is a job for these pilots," but you didn't feel that they were going way you go America all the time. It felt a bit more subtle. This one felt very gung ho for America, and especially as directed by a British guy. It feels very much ignorant of the rest of the world, and let's go bomb people and stuff like that. So it does have that stink of American 80s where it's exceptionalism all the time, and that's why it rubs a lot of people the wrong way. It's not the worst film. It's just like you're gonna like it or you're not, but I'm not. I'm one of those people who don't like it that much. I like the sequel, but I don't like this first one. I think the sequel did a lot better. Really kind of took everything did a lot better. And I like Tony Scott as well, but this one I don't think he really. I think he was still finding his feet. So number 8 is Monty Python's Meaning of Life, and again, this is a kind of a joke one because it's the one sequence, which is the vomiting sequence, the kind of vomiting sequence where Mr. Crusoe, who ends up blowing up, played by Terry Jones, and John Cleese is a guy who's the waiter, and there's vomit everywhere, but it's also reprehensible because it tries to suggest there's meaning to life, even though the film doesn't suggest that at all. It's taking a piss at that, but it's on the list because of its title and that one sequence. It's a really good film. It's really enjoyable. I'd highly recommend seeing this one. It's looking upon the list, it's the best film on the list by a mile. So number 7 is Who Dares Wins, which is a very kind of patriotic British movie. So since we did an American one, I thought I should do one for my country. Who Dares Wins stars Lewis Collins. It's a SAS promotional thing, really. It's like how great the SAS are at taking down villains and those awful left-wing terrorists. It has Judy Davis in early parts. It's awful but really enjoyable. It's like it's undeserving of the competence the director gave it because the script's awful. You know, it's just one of those films that's like it really is cringe making in so many ways, but it's also kind of enjoyable. It's got that Top Gun thing where I'm cringing at a lot of the time, but also there's other bits I quite like, but it's not one to defend. Especially a big softy liberal like me, you know. So I have to come down hard on this one. Number 6 is Legends of the Overfiend. This is a Japanese anime that got hated for basically tentacle porn rape sequences. It is utterly tasteless. It's one of those films you watch and you go, "Oh my god, what am I watching?" It's like this is the film that when people talk about anime, it's oh, it's sick. This is the film they're talking about. It's this one that got the reputation. I mean, there's other ones who followed up in this and who were also a bit dodgy, but this one is the famous one. And it is fairly hard to defend. It doesn't really have any real story message. It's just like, let's see these horrible sequences where these girls get raped by this tentacle monster, and these other monster sequences happen as well. It's really indefensible in all sorts of ways. So it has to be on the list. It might have been higher. I would rewatched it recently, but I haven't. But I'm going to memory, and it was pretty hardcore. Like, oh my god, I do have it in DVD, but it's like it's not one you'd put on very often. So that's number 6. Number 5 is The Lost Boys because it's shit. There we go. That's the explanation. Those hairstyles. Near Dark came out around at the same time and bombed because this film was the vampire movie. You know, it's shit. It's on this list because it's shit. Again, it's really I'm trying to think of another clever explanation, but no. It's sometimes morally reprehensible means it's a terrible film promoting terrible values, like all we need are mullets and lots of glam, you know, costumes and be vampires. It's just an awful film. It's so 80s. It's the example of the 80s horror film going wrong, where there was lots of good 80s horror films, but there was also these kind of insincere, you know, cheesy, very 80s, very much exceptionalism of American values horror films where all the characters were pretty vacuous and horrific, and when it's them all dying, they don't. Yeah, basically, I was in the vampire side in this film easily. But the fun thing is, I mean, you have like actors like Jason Patrick who did serious films after this, having to have this in CV, so it makes it funny. Number four also isn't because it's shit. It's because it's a Breakfast Club. It's terrible. It's awful. Bunch of whiny, annoying teens moaning for an hour and a half or 2 hours. Felt like three. Watched it once, never want to see it again. I hated everyone in this film. And it gets on this list for being smug and being whiny about rich kids. Screw them. Not literally, but you know what I mean? No, just go away. You don't have real problems like the rest of the world does. I just don't like that thing, the pity, you know, the pity the rich thing. Is like, really? They can afford a shrink. They can survive. They can afford an education to actually interest and talk to other people. They don't need to be whiny like this. They can afford almost anything to make themselves less of a problem for society. It's not like a poor person with no money and no future. Okay, number three is Once Upon a Time in America, the 2 hour cut. This is on here because Once Upon a Time in America is a masterpiece and you shouldn't cut it down, especially to try and make the Americans happy. So they get a film that's absolutely loathed. And in Europe, we got the long version and we enjoyed the hell out of it. So yeah, we're getting that. The 2 hour cut gets number three, just simply for existing. Number two, we have Rambo 3. Rambo 3 is another one of those films that took out another really good film called The Beast, which actually starred Jason Patrick from Lost Boys. And it was a serious film of Afghanistan, of the Russians of Afghanistan. And then this stupid film come out, and The Beast was pretty much shelved with a very limited release later on. But not just that, they spent so much money on a really tedious, stupid film about an American going to solve Afghanistan's problems. One dumb American is going to solve Afghanistan. When, they send Russia in for ages and they all get killed. Afghanistan has a lot of problems internally with Taliban and various human rights versus religious rights, or people who think their view of the world is the only view. It's a complicated culture that Rambo, by joining the Mujahideen, I blew that pronunciation, but he's basically joined the terrorists to defeat the Russians. And basically spent like $50 million on boring action scenes. I mean, the final fight is so tedious. God knows where the money went in this thing. Russell Mulcahy was the original director who did Highlander. He shot some of the fort stuff and some of the cave stuff and then got fired. Peter McDonald took over. He was a second unit director, and the film was tedious as hell. And it's just so boring. But it's also politically so stupid and so naive that this is a perfect example of America not understanding the world, thinking their values transfer over. So it joins Top Gun and the American are stupid. Well, Britain has Who Dares Wins, who shows that British are stupid. Stupidity is morally reprehensible. It really is. Because there's so many problems in the world. Right, finally, number one. This was an easy one. This is, as soon as I thought of the list, this was number one. And that's Twilight Zone, the movie. because someone died in the movie and they showed that sequence, they didn't just instantly just cancel the film, say, okay, tax right off, we're not showing this, someone died. One of our leading actors died in this film in a horrible accident. It should have been shelved instantly. Same way, I like The Crow, but if I did a 90s list, it would be number one for putting the film out after the leading man died. You just don't do that. You really don't do that. And it's also, if you want a joke thing, the Spielberg section is horrible. I mean, the George Miller section, the Dante section are enjoyable. The John Landis one where Vic Morrow died, no, it's not a good thing, but it was never really finished. But that should have been shelved. That one section should have been shelved completely. Really, I mean, you just can't show that. So that's why it makes Tom list. I don't think you should show that section. It should have been shelved. It's like, why are you selling something when someone died for it? Why are you doing that? Well, someone famously died. It just morally just doesn't wash for me. So that's why I guess number one. There's lots of discussions you had about what happened, who was at fault. There's various people with different points of view in that. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about actually showing it. You shouldn't have done it. You should at least have cut that section out and say, we're not showing that section in the film. That's never been seen. That's what they should have done straight away. Brought another director to do stuff. I mean, Spielberg didn't really do it after that. So he did this awful thing. And yeah, it's just for that one reason. It's just like, no, I really can't get behind that. So that's my 10 list, my stupid 10 list. As you can see, I mean, I didn't even get to RoboCop because some people don't like that one either. But yeah, I mean, I thought Monty Python's Meaning of Life kind of covered RoboCop quite nicely. Yeah, and the Breakfast Club and Lost Boys, just because them and Top Gun are so 80s, it's like, it's that stupid Americanism that it was like, that's what the world hated. It was just like, get a bit more humble and just don't think you know all the answers because you've seen a couple of action movies. It was that kind of attitude, or because you have money doesn't mean you have all the answers. That kind of glibness that really annoyed people in the 80s of America. And then you have the stupidity of Rambo 3. I mean, there's all sorts of reasons to be offended. I could do a top 20 list quite easily in this one. But I thought I'd try and make it kind of humorous and not too serious. But because basically I was doing a top 25 80s list, I was like, I'm not doing that. That's rubbish. So I did this instead. So in case you're thinking, is it a Judgment Nose list? Yes, it is. It completely is. I would not have done this if it wasn't for those top 25 80s lists. And most of the time you're looking, why did you choose that? That's not very good. So, yes, a judgment call. It's my little sarcastic response to those videos. Right, so I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you later. Right, bye.